Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a look at the new Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee, Origin Bumblebee. This figure, if you don't know, is something that people have been waiting on for a little while now, especially since Siege was announced. And it is a figure of Bumblebee, it's deluxe size. Well, deluxe size in quotation marks, right? About as deluxe size as the other Bumblebee. That turns into his little hover saucer mode thing from the very first episode of the Transformers cartoon. And a lot of people expected something like that when Siege came about because they were doing all these Cybertronian designs. They did, the Tetrajets. And Bumblebee never showed up in that line. And he didn't pop up until the second wave of Netflix in an Earth mode, his Volkswagen mode. So people have been, kind of wondering what happened to this. And they finally released this toy. Now, I have a feeling he was originally slated for either Siege or Netflix or something. Because, he really just fits, that whole aesthetic really well. I could be wrong. It's purely speculation on my part. But either way, whether he was a delayed figure that's seeing release now or something that came later after they saw the demand, I don't know. But he's here, and he's pretty cool. So if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Bumblebee's packaging, then we'll open it up, we'll see the instructions, and we'll see Bumblebee himself in both his vehicle and robot modes. Naturally, I'll be doing plenty of group shots and comparisons today. And then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. Bumblebee comes in the Buzzworthy variation of like a Generations Deluxe style box, right? About that size, little cutout corner, and he's taken the whole Kingdom MO of like a half window with no plastic there. You can see he's quite small because almost all of him fits in that little half window. So, despite all the nuances of part count accessories, this will not feel like a $23 purchase. Telling you that now. And yes, I said 23 because if you don't know, Deluxes are now 23 bucks at most places. I think the only place that still sells them for cheaper is Walmart. So yeah, they're getting up there. They're 23, right? You think back just a few years ago, Voyagers were $25. So give you an idea where we're at. I'm not going to get super ranty on this one. I've already complained about it enough. So you may not feel satisfied for the price, but if you do want, a saucer Bumblebee, it's kind of the route you got to go. The front and side of his packaging has the same little kind of montage of different versions of Bumblebee that's seen on the other Buzzworthy products. So you have two renders of the Evergreen design, some sort of like kind of heavy line version of G1 Bumblebee, and then something akin to the comics where he's just done up in like an all gold color. Then on the back, we get renders of the toy. You can see his vehicle and robot modes. He takes 23 steps to transform, so that's good. He's fairly complicated. They show also that he comes with these little energon rod things. The energon rods? I'll double check that. Or energy rods, something, power rods. He comes with his little blaster, and he comes with a jetpack. So his jetpack, just a jetpack, because I don't think he ever actually used one. Now, I know the actual jetpack is black plastic. I'm imagining the gun's probably been recolored to black too, which is a shame because the silver really helps him stand out, and having a black gun with a half black robot's gonna look pretty generic. But anyway, there you go. You can see, how all that works. You'll also notice that they have the War for Cybertron Trilogy branding right there on the bottom. So it means this toy is very much a part of that trilogy, which, does make sense given the engineering and, the alt mode choice and all that. So I'm still leaning toward this was like a shelved Siege design or something. And I'll probably display him with my Siege toys because it just, I think, makes the most sense to have him there. Then, if you turn it here, you get just a kind of half-body render of the Evergreen Bumblebee design. Okay, so here's our little instruction book for Bumblebee. Got this nice little render of him on the front. Got your orange and black Buzzworthy colors, War for Cybertron logo. And here it shows him carrying what, I did the quick look up, so they're not energy rods, they were conductors, that's what they were. And I think in the show he actually only had 4, so we kind of just get a bonus one. Oh well. Can't complain about more accessories, right? So just shows you how to have them carry them, which is kind of interesting, right? Because like normally these things are a little more of an exact science, right? Something plugs into a port or a hole somewhere. Here you just literally just have gravity doing its thing and him trying to hold these up. So that's kind of interesting. And then we go straight to the transformation from robot to vehicle. Continues around on the back, as you can see. And then we get the finished vehicle mode. And additionally, they show us the part and weapon storage for the vehicle mode. What they don't actually show, though, I mean, you don't really need it, but they don't actually show you where the things go in the robot mode. But I guess the render here kind of shows you, right? Because you can see the jetpack back there, and he's holding the gun. Again, not really necessary for anyone with a functioning prefrontal cortex, but still an odd exclusion there. So there's that. And now we get the flying saucer mode. And you can see I have the accessories mounted on top of it. And, you know, I mean, I'm not crazy about, you know, the whole just kind of slapping things on top of vehicle modes, but it works a little bit better here. The jetpack just looks like some sort of thrusters to propel the thing around. And because this isn't like an Earth-based vehicle and looks like some kind of spaceship, the gun just looks like a normal mounted weapon that it would use. So it doesn't bother me as much as it would on, say, like, I don't know, Blue Streak or something, but I mean, it's better than no weapon storage. We'll say that. The UFO thing, the flying saucer mode, is pretty nice and compact on the top. In fact, let's go ahead and remove this stuff just so you can see it better. Take that off. So you got 3 5mm ports across the top. Get a clear blue windshield. You get the little front grille piece, which is actually not fake kibble or anything, so that's awesome. And the underside is a bit more of a mess, right? You can see the fist, and you can see his face there, but it's got to go somewhere. You know, really, you're looking at the top of it. Now, there's no wheels or anything, because it's supposed to be a hovering vehicle, so that means it won't roll or glide along the ground. It just kind of sits there. But you can always get creative with, like, a flight stand, and so they have the port, the little, like, figure stand port right here. So it works out pretty well. You can plug it in. I wish it was a little more centered because there's going to be a lot of weight on the front end. But you got some options there. It's pretty neat. And here's a quick group shot with the 2 other most recent Bumblebee releases. Not counting the Worlds Collide Bumblebee, because as of recording this, I don't have that yet. So we get the previous Buzzworthy, like, new mold toy, which is a core class War for Cybertron Bumblebee. It came with Spike Witwicky. And then we get the Netflix Volkswagen Beetle Alt Mode Deluxe Class Bumblebee, which is like the most purely G1 Bumblebee we've had in the retail line in a long time. So each one of them is doing a very, very different thing, right? These 2 are scaled for Deluxe. This guy's only a core class, so it's a lot smaller, but I just figured it was worth bringing out because of the close relation between these 2. You'll also notice that the Volkswagen Bee is done up in a much more orange yellow, much to the chagrin of a number of people. These 2 get his more classically yellow color scheme more correct. And one thing that the core class toy actually does better than either of these 2 is he actually has integrated weapon storage. Look at that. Hides up under the vehicle. So at least one of them can pull it off. This guy, I don't have his weapons attached, but, you know, he gets the cliff jumper accessories, so you can do, you know, kind of the ski mode, or there's a way to kind of finagle, half transform him and attach it up top, which looks pretty bad. Unfortunately, he can't wield the extra blaster thing that came in the accessory pack. There's no ports anywhere that really work for that. Which is also kind of odd because Cliff Jumper actually has a 5mm port on top and he can wield his little glass gas cannon, but this Bee can't. So, kind of annoying. But you can see just 3 very different takes on this character. You have the classic Earth-based alt mode. You have his now classic Cybertronian alt mode, the very first alt mode he was ever seen to use in the cartoon. And then you get a more modernized take, much boxier car, which still is baffling why it's not Bumper, because, I mean, it's like literally Bumper's alt mode. I don't know. I'm still convinced this was supposed to be a Bumper, and they, like, scrapped it, and then when they did Buzzworthy, they just had, like, this mold sitting around and put a Bumblebee head on it. We'll never know for sure, though, I imagine. Okay, now it's time to do our transformation. So if you haven't already, go ahead and remove the accessories, set them aside. Now, the first thing we want to do, we're going to lower this little hood section thing just kind of down and off of the main body here. You'll lift up this piece, just kind of separate it, pull it out. Then you're going to separate the leg halves here, this little tab. Now, you see his knees are kind of like bent to the side. So you're going to straighten those legs out. Like so. Just like that. You want to get his feet free from this shell thing. So you pull them out to the side. Do the same thing over here. Rotate these up and in. Same here. Let's swing these in, and they actually plug in right here, the little tab. Kind of hold them in place. The legs nice and pretty looking. Oh yeah, fold these in further too. It's like up against the shins and stuff. All right, then his Volkswagen-y looking feet. And rotate kind of out, down. Same thing here. If it'll let me. Come on, man. There you go. Alrighty. Oop. Spin these around. Get his legs straightened out. Now, let's get his shoulders where they're supposed to be. So, you're going to kind of untab his arms from each other. Rotate the shoulder areas out to a nice neutral position. Let's spin the waist around while we're at it. I'm going to pop something off. What'd I do? What'd I do? Where'd this come from? Oh, that goes... Oh, that goes on here. That's not even supposed to come off. Huh, look at that. All right, so make sure that stays on. That's his like little crotch piece thing there. All right, now this bit, you're gonna fold it down and swing it up at the same time to form his chest. Something somewhat reminiscent of his classic like car roof chest, but more squared off, much more akin to how he appears in the new comics, new TV show. Ironically, also matching his other toy that's being released in the Worlds Collide pack. So you flip the fists out, and then all this, I'm gonna neatly fold it all up. So this piece is gonna come down like that. Be careful, because you know, clear plastic, hinges, all that fun stuff. So you fold this in, and you flip it up, keeping it all like nice and compressed. And there you go. Here is Bee's robot mode. Complete with a big old backpack. Bee toys get backpacks a lot, don't they? Alright, so here it is. He's a little slim looking for a Bumblebee. I mean, I guess it makes him a little more cartoon proportioned. Because in the cartoon he wasn't like a little chunky guy. But I don't know. So if we want, we can go ahead and give him his blaster, his hand. And then you can even attach his jetpack to the back. It just goes in the same spot that it goes in the vehicle mode. Just in that little port. Alright, so now we got him. Play around with him. Head is on a nice ball joint. A little tight, but you can get to go around. It's got universal shoulders. Bicep swivel. Single bend elbow. Unfortunately, no wrist swivel. The wrists just flip out and that's it. He has waist rotation, which you may have to lift his backpack up a little bit to get it to go, but it doesn't really mess anything up too much. Universal hips. He's got a thigh swivel, single bend knees. He's got ankle tilt, and even a little bit of rocking because of his transformation. And if you want to kind of cheat, you can extend the feet out a little bit to get a little bit extra range there. So it's up to you if you want to do that. So overall, he's pretty much the total package. He is missing the wrist swivel, which is a shame, but pretty common at, you know, smaller scales like this. And like he is a deluxe, but he's a really small deluxe, like almost in line with the core class. In fact, they had to really flesh things out for this guy just to meet that $20 price point, right? He's got the blaster, but he's also got the jetpack, and then he also has, which I probably should have shown these sooner, but here are the conductors that are seen in the very first episode of the cartoon. So they're pretty neat looking. I mean, they're simple, just clear plastic with a little bit of a glittery kind of look to them. They are hollow on the ends on one side, which is a shame, but not unexpected. And the rods of these, like the main part here, they seem to actually be 5mm, which is great, except because these are part of it too, you can't just like put it down in a 5mm port. The best you can do is find a character with open hands and just kind of pop it in there. but like he's not going to actually be able to hold these in his hands, right? You'd have to have him just kind of bear hug them. But it's still a really neat detail, not something I honestly ever thought we'd get a toy of, right? The conductors from the first episode. Why not, right? So overall, really cool, good-looking little Bumblebee, and he is apparently based on Ken Christensen's artwork, which is what was used as the basis for the War for Cybertron cartoon and the new run of the IDW comics. Now, pretty cool to get that synergy. At the same time, a little disappointing because it puts him a bit more off-model with, you know, the cartoon character he's supposed to be replicating. Also kind of weird because while he does have some boxier proportions, like on the chest, he still has the Volkswagen feet. So he seems to just be kind of a hybrid of the two designs. And I want to touch on that too. The fact that he has Volkswagen feet, I always found really weird. Like, I get it was a budget thing, but it just never made sense to me how the Transformers in that first episode had these very alien alt modes, but then turned into just how their robot modes look on Earth. Just, it makes no sense. And it's a shame they couldn't have come up with, like, tweaked character models just for those scenes. I mean, even Armada did it, right? Like, Transformers Armada, which was not seen as, like, a highlight in Transformers animation, though there are some, don't get me wrong, some really well-animated scenes, including, like, in that first episode. They had all new designs for, like, all of the beginning cast that were devoid of Earth mode kibble, and in some cases quite different looking, like Optimus's design. So, yeah, I mean, there's not really an excuse. They could have been a little more creative with how these characters looked. And if they had done that, figures like this and like the Siege Tetrajet Seekers, they wouldn't have had to like be so cheaty in their transformations, right? That you wouldn't have to use a lot of like fake kibble and stuff. You could have just had designs that worked because they made sense. But I will still give the toy designers for this and the Seekers like really high props for making something that turns into, you know, a pretty close approximation of those alien vehicle modes and still has a decent looking robot mode that has a lot of, you know, the cues and kibble and stuff of the character model. So I do commend them for it. It is a job well done. Okay, here's our robot mode group shot with the other two Bumblebees. Again, core class, Netflix, Volkswagen Beetle mode. So you can see they're all doing their own thing and being very different. The core class, honestly, he's just weird looking. He's like all upper body and he's got this weird like diamond shaped head. But one thing that's interesting is if you look at his blaster and this bee's blaster, they are much more similar looking in design than this one to this, which is supposed to, you know, also be his cartoon blaster. So that's interesting. I mean, these two are almost like dead ringers for each other. Just one's, you know, upscaled and has more hollow bits as a result because we can't have nice things. And then even these two are very different looking proportionally. Right, our Netflix bee, he has kind of chunkier proportions because he has to actually turn into a beetle. So he's got really big feet, he's got the big chest area, you know, kind of reminds you of the first Masterpiece toy. This one can kind of get away with stuff because a lot of his kibble's fake, right? The feet aren't actual car fronts. They're just designed to look like it. And his chest, while it is actually used in the vehicle mode as like the grill part, the whole window detailings are fake, right? They're just meant to evoke something like this. So he's able to achieve a bit more, you know, cartoon proportion than the guy that actually has to turn into a car. And they're also using very, very different head sculpts, right? This one is a little more traditional Bumblebee. This one's much wider, and it's kind of the reason for why all the recent depictions of Bumblebee have had that very wide face and it kind of had like the frill going around the outside and all that stuff. So again, different takes. Personally, I would have preferred if their heads would have been the same mold, like one or the other, or at least very similar looking molds, just because you want that synergy there, right? You want to be able to believe that this guy just scans into alt mode and becomes this guy. And unfortunately, that's not the case. They are very different looking. I'll say I actually kind of prefer this head sculpt though, just for no real reason other than this one's actually smiling. Like this Bumblebee has a very kind of blank, neutral expression, which doesn't suit the character very well, right? He's usually known as like the more happy-go-lucky, kind of kid appeal character. So I actually like the Smiling Bee a bit more, right? It just feels like it suits his personality. One quick thing I wanted to showcase is the backpack. A lot of people have mistaken his backpack for just a black recolor of the one that goes to Sideswipe for the accessory pack. That's not actually the case. They are different molds. Now, they're very similar looking. They do have like the large middle portion here, complete with like an indent on the top, and then they got kind of like little side thruster things. But if you look, they're different sizes. They have different detailings on the back. The thrusters, on his, just are kind of straight down. On Sideswipes are more flared out. Got like vents up here. So they aren't the same piece, which is good because it gives us some variety and it wasn't just a repack or a pack-in of, an existing piece. Unlike the Allspark release as part of that Worlds Collide pack, it's literally just the one that came from the spoiler box Megatron. Like, it's just same thing. They just threw it in there too for some random reason. So I like to see that. I like that he's actually getting, his own unique parts and not something that was supposed to be exclusive. Though we've seen not every item that came in that accessory pack is exclusive, because we're getting the Optimus Slug figure with the Arc, same one that came in the pack, just this one's red. So that about covers everything I wanted to discuss with the new Origins Bumblebee. Overall, I am very excited that this thing exists. I mean, we've been wanting a space saucer Bumblebee forever. Especially once Siege came out and we got the Tetrajets and stuff, and we're just thinking, Bumblebee when, and they never did come through on that end. So, we're about 2 years down the road now, but I would definitely say better late than never. I like the way that this guy came out. I think his transformation is very interesting, very innovative. I think he looks really good in both the alternate and robot modes, so he managed to pull off some real magic there. And, the accessories he comes with are just fantastic. He's got the blaster, he's got a jetpack, and he comes with 5 of those conductors. Now, I do still really wish they had kept the silver on the jetpack and the blaster just to help them stand out more and look a little more premium. But it's a fairly mild criticism. I like the fact that he still managed to be covered in like 5mm ports, so he gets that compatibility with the other War for Cybertron toys. He can use weaponizers and fossilizers and all that cool stuff. Doesn't have it on his forearms, but, his forearms are pretty tiny, so it's kind of forgivable. Great articulation, and, it's a pretty good value. Small deluxe, but he gets a lot of accessories. I'd say more so than the, regular, like, Cliff Jumper toys, as far as total plastic used. And he's really interesting. So, I would highly recommend picking this up. Like, if you have any interest in a Cybertronian mode Bumblebee, I think this is going to be a great toy. Like, yeah, he's a little kibbly, right? Because, again, they're having to work against cartoon magic, where you get, a alien alt mode and an Earth robot mode. So I think they handled it very, very well. Maybe would have preferred to see more rounded chest piece just to make him look a bit more like how he should look from the cartoon. But it's not that big a deal, right? You can kind of purpose this guy either as like your classic Sunbow Bee or like the more recent like War for Cybertron incarnations or IDW incarnation. So I highly, highly recommend getting this guy. He's starting to hit Target stores all over the country. So I think you should, do the searching and pick him up. And hopefully he'll become available on their website. That's how I got the Core Class B. Actually, was able to order him for pickup from the website before he even started showing up on shelves. So totally, just get this guy. I think you'll really like him. Of course, that is just how I feel about Bumblebee. Now I want to know what you all think of this toy. Do you see a spot for this in your collection? Do you like the idea of finally getting the Flying Saucer Bumblebee? Or is this just not your cup of tea? It's too obscure. You don't need, different versions of Bee. Or do you not like Bumblebee? I mean, there's valid reasons to not like Bumblebee. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. There are reasons. Any and all feedback's always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. If you'd like to become a member of the channel and enjoy special perks such as access to member-only live streams, early viewings of monthly Q&As where I answer questions submitted by our members, just look for that join button down below and you can become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month and help support the channel and help us grow as a community. I thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee Origins Bumblebee. With all that said, I will see you next time.